Gambling is a thrilling industry, filled with flashing lights, ringing slot machines, and the promise of winning big. But behind the excitement of the casino floor and the booming online gambling market, there's a darker story, one that's making billions of dollars each year. It's the business of gambling addiction. How do casinos, betting companies, and online platforms profit from people who just can't stop? Today, we're breaking down the billion-dollar business of gambling addiction and how the industry is designed to keep people hooked. The rise of gambling and its global reach. Gambling is big business, really big. In 2024, the global gambling industry is valued at over $500 billion. From casinos and sports betting to online poker and slot machines, gambling takes many forms, and it's available almost everywhere. Whether you're in Las Vegas on your smartphone or watching a live sporting event, gambling is never too far away. What's more, the rise of online gambling has made it easier than ever to place a bet. In fact, the online gambling market is expected to reach over $150 billion by 2027, with millions of people logging into apps and websites to gamble from the comfort of their homes. But with this growing convenience comes a growing problem: addiction. Gambling addiction affects millions of people worldwide, and for the gambling industry, these individuals represent a significant portion of their profits. Research shows that up to 60% of gambling revenue comes from just 5% of players, the ones who are addicted. This means that while the industry is profitable overall, much of that profit comes from people who are struggling with compulsive gambling. So, how do people get addicted to gambling? The answer lies in the psychology behind the games. Gambling taps into the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine, the same chemical that's associated with feelings of pleasure and reward. But unlike other forms of entertainment, gambling is designed to create what's known as intermittent reinforcement, which means players are rewarded at random intervals. This unpredictability makes gambling incredibly addictive. Intermittent reinforcement is a powerful psychological tool. When a gambler hits a small win, the brain releases a rush of dopamine, reinforcing the behavior. But because wins are unpredictable, the brain craves more and more of that reward, pushing people to keep playing, even when they're losing. This cycle of anticipation, reward, and loss is what drives gambling addiction. Casinos and online gambling platforms use this understanding of human psychology to keep players engaged. Everything from the design of slot machines to the layout of online betting sites is carefully crafted to encourage people to keep gambling. The bright lights, sounds, and even the placement of casino floors are all designed to create an environment where players lose track of time and money. While gambling may seem like harmless entertainment for most, the industry knows that it's the high-frequency players, those with gambling problems, who drive much of the revenue. Casinos, betting companies, and online platforms are all built around maximizing profits, and gambling addiction is unfortunately a key part of that equation. Take slot machines, for example. Modern slot machines are designed to give players the illusion of control, with features like near misses and losses disguised as wins. A near miss occurs when the symbols on the slot machine almost line up for a win, but don't quite make it. This gives the player the feeling that they were close to winning, encouraging them to keep playing. Similarly, losses disguised as wins play winning sounds and animations even when the player loses money overall. Both of these tactics keep players engaged and playing longer. Online gambling platforms are even more sophisticated. These sites use data analytics and artificial intelligence to track player behavior and personalize the gambling experience. By analyzing how much time and money a player is spending, the platform can tailor its offers, bonuses, and notifications to keep the player engaged. For example, if a player is about to log off, they might receive a pop-up offering a special bonus or free spin to entice them to keep playing. The goal is simple: keep players gambling for as long as possible. And for those who are already struggling with addiction, these tactics can be incredibly difficult to resist. While the gambling industry rakes in billions of dollars, the cost for addicted gamblers can be devastating. Gambling addiction is often referred to as a hidden addiction because, unlike substance abuse, there are no physical signs. But the financial toll can be catastrophic. In 2024, it's estimated that gambling addiction affects around 1 to 2% of the global population, with much higher rates in countries with prevalent gambling markets like the US, UK, and Australia. For individuals, this addiction can lead to mounting debts, bankruptcy, and even homelessness. Studies show that compulsive gamblers are more likely to max out credit cards, drain savings, and borrow money from friends and family, often leading to broken relationships and financial ruin. But it's not just the individual who suffers. Families and communities also bear the burden. Research indicates that for every person suffering from gambling addiction, at least 10 other people are negatively affected, including spouses, children, and friends. This ripple effect extends into society, with increased crime rates, mental health issues, and costs to public services. And while the financial costs for individuals and families are huge, the gambling industry continues to profit. Gambling operators are well aware that addicted players spend more money, and they do little to intervene, despite the enormous personal cost. In response to the growing problem of gambling addiction, many countries have introduced regulations aimed at protecting vulnerable players. But in 2024, it's clear that these regulations often fall short, leaving plenty of loopholes that the gambling industry can exploit to maintain profits. One of the biggest issues is the lack of uniformity in gambling regulations across different countries and even within regions. For example, in the United States, gambling laws vary widely from state to state, with some states allowing almost unrestricted access to online gambling, while others have stricter controls. In Europe, countries like the UK have implemented self-exclusion programs and advertising restrictions aimed at protecting problem gamblers. But even these efforts are undermined by the global nature of online gambling. Many online gambling platforms are headquartered in countries with lax regulations, allowing them to operate in markets with stricter rules, while avoiding much of the regulatory oversight. This creates a gray area, where players in highly regulated countries are still able to access gambling sites that are not subject to the same standards of consumer protection. Another issue is the rise of gamblification in non-gambling products, particularly in the world of video games. In recent years, loot boxes, virtual items that players can buy for a chance to win rare in-game rewards, have sparked concerns about their potential to encourage gambling behavior, especially among younger audiences. Despite public outcry and some regulatory action in countries like Belgium, loot boxes remain legal in many parts of the world, raising fears that they could foster gambling addiction in a new generation. The gambling industry has also found ways to work around advertising restrictions. It's on television and radio, social media and influencer marketing have become new tools for promoting gambling to a younger, more tech-savvy audience. Many online gambling companies sponsor major sports teams and events, making their logos and brands nearly impossible to avoid for fans of those teams. The profits from gambling addiction are undeniable, but the human cost is just as significant. Gambling addiction is linked to a range of mental health issues, including anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts. Studies in 2024 show that problem gamblers are more likely to suffer from severe emotional distress, with some estimates suggesting that 20% of people with gambling addiction have attempted suicide. The personal stories behind these statistics are heartbreaking. Families torn apart by financial ruin, individuals losing their homes, and lives destroyed by the inability to stop gambling. For many, gambling addiction is not just a financial problem, it's a mental health crisis. In response, advocacy groups and health organizations are pushing for stronger regulations and better support systems for those affected by gambling addiction. In the UK, for example, the government introduced a ban on gambling advertisements during live sports events in 2019, known as the whistle-to-whistle ban. However, critics argue that more needs to be done to curb the influence of the gambling industry, especially online. In 2024, there is growing momentum for reform, particularly in regulating online gambling and protecting young people from the predatory practices of gambling companies. Countries like Australia are considering stricter measures, including a national gambling self-exclusion registry and tighter controls on how online gambling companies use customer data. Despite the ongoing efforts for reform, the gambling industry continues to thrive. In 2024, gambling companies are finding new ways to innovate and reach broader audiences. The rapid growth of mobile gaming and sports betting apps has opened up new revenue streams, particularly in countries where traditional gambling forms were once less popular. Esports betting has also become a significant part of the industry, with millions of people around the world placing bets on competitive video games. This trend has attracted a younger demographic, raising concerns that the next generation could be more susceptible to gambling addiction. At the same time, the rise of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology is creating new opportunities for the gambling industry. Many online platforms are now offering cryptocurrency gambling, which operates in an even murkier regulatory space. Cryptocurrency gambling sites often promise anonymity and fast transactions, making them appealing to players, but they also make it more difficult for regulators to track and prevent problem gambling. While the gambling industry continues to expand, there is an urgent need for responsible gambling initiatives. Some gambling operators have introduced tools like deposit limits, timeouts, and self-exclusion options, but critics argue that these measures don't go far enough. Responsible gambling should be more than just a checkbox on a website. In 2024, experts are calling for more proactive measures, such as real-time monitoring of player behavior and automatic intervention when signs of problem gambling are detected. Technology, including artificial intelligence, could play a crucial role in identifying at-risk players and offering support before their addiction spirals out of control. Another key area of reform is education. Raising awareness about the risks of gambling and offering support for mental health can help prevent addiction from taking hold in the first place. Governments, schools, and health organizations are increasingly focusing on providing resources to educate the public, especially young people, about the dangers of gambling. The billion-dollar gambling industry is built on a foundation of risk and reward, but for many, that reward never comes. Gambling addiction is a devastating condition that ruins lives, and yet it's also a key driver of profits for casinos, betting companies, and online platforms. As the industry continues to grow and innovate, so too does the need for stronger protections for vulnerable individuals. The question is, can the industry strike a balance between profit and responsibility? Or will it continue to thrive on the losses of its most vulnerable customers? As gambling becomes more accessible than ever, it's crucial that we take a hard look at how the industry operates and what can be done to protect those at risk. Thanks for watching Biz Breakdowns. If you found this dive into the billion-dollar business of gambling addiction insightful, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon for more business stories that matter. Let us know in the comments. What's your take on the role of regulation in the gambling industry?